We're about to look into the pages of the first continuous recorded history of mankind in the book we call the Holy Bible. We're going to investigate some of its most controversial stories and discover the answers to some very tough questions. Is the Bible a reliable account of miraculous interventions that rescue people from sudden doom and destruction? Or is it merely a collection of legends and myths, as some modern-day critics claim? Leading experts, both Bible skeptics and proponents, from throughout the world have contributed to the discussion of these biblical questions that may shock and surprise you.
Mustafa's great uncle took us right up the side of this mountain, and we were going around rocks and above cliffs and below cliffs. It was like a trail, and I'm tired and I'm winded. When are we going to see the Ark? And then all of a sudden you look down and here's this huge, awesome ship sitting below you in this fog. You know, it's almost like you picture a dream, and there it is.
In 1959, we were flying jet fighters over Mount Ararat when we spotted what was said to be Noah's Ark. It appeared to be a barge-like structure, a large boxcar type design, and it definitely appeared to be man-made.
High on a mountaintop in eastern Turkey, hidden beneath an icy glacier, is an important link to our distant past. Reports say it's a 5,000-year-old wooden ship with stalls and cages on board. From actual eyewitnesses, you will discover for the first time the real truth behind the age-old legend of Noah's Ark. You will witness never-before-seen aerial photos and satellite images that provide amazing new proof about the mystery that lies high atop Mount Ararat. You will hear fascinating eyewitness accounts from people who themselves have seen and photographed the ancient ship. This program will give us exciting information to shed the light on these questions that have puzzled historians for thousands of years. Could the ancient legends be true? Is this Noah's Ark? We're about to embark on a journey to find the answers to these and many other intriguing questions. Is there any proof that a massive worldwide flood really happened, as the Bible claims? What new findings does modern technology, from satellite photography to the laboratory, offer in our quest of the Ark? How did Noah build his great boat? And what was it like for him and his family to face the greatest catastrophe the world has ever known? Who are these people who say they have actually seen the Ark of Noah? What photographic evidence or other proof do they have to back up their claims? Stay with us for a front row seat to the amazing first-hand discovery of the fabled Noah's Ark. Our search for the Ark of Noah is not meant to be a religious mission. Above all, this is an archaeological quest to determine if this ancient mystery is truth or fable. Ultimately, our quest is to find the Ark itself. Just what would it mean to us all to actually find the Ark and solve this great mystery?
The discovery of Noah's Ark, in my estimation, would prove conclusively the authenticity of the Genesis account of a worldwide flood.
If we can discover Noah's Ark, it will cause people of all faiths to reevaluate how they think about death, eternity, and how they live their daily lives. As the late editor of the National Geographic said here in Washington several years ago about the discovery of Noah's Ark, it will be the greatest archaeological find in human history and the greatest event since the resurrection of Christ, and will alter all the currents of scientific thought.
The Ark is probably the best known and most debated religious artifact in the world. Ark researchers and scholars have raised many serious and controversial questions.
Were thousands of animals actually taken on board an immense boat to survive a devastating flood? How could one boat, even an immense one, shelter all the species of the animals in the world today? How could 8 people have cared for and fed all of those animals at sea during that entire year?
Why do we get some reports that people have claimed to have seen the Ark on Mount Ararat, yet dozens of well-financed expeditions have gone up there looking for it and have come back empty-handed? Either it's up there or it's not.
Are the reported sightings of the Ark on Mount Ararat in Turkey the delusions of religious fanatics? Are they perhaps just innocently mistaken eyewitness reports? If so, How can we account for the ancient wood and artifacts found high on this treeless mountain? For many years, we thought the ultimate answers to these questions were lost to the ages. But now, modern scientific technology and new archaeological explorations are beginning to unravel many of the long-forgotten secrets of the Noah story. But our primary quest is to find genuine, convincing evidence of the Ark's existence and ultimately to find the Ark itself. To do that, we'll trace the footsteps of the Ark hunters who have gone before us. We'll follow clues gathered from their early expeditions as we mount our own search to find the legendary Noah's Ark. Existence of the Ark has long been a topic of great controversy. It's normal and understandable for us to be skeptical of ancient accounts. That's why the first modern discovery of evidence of the Ark's existence created such excitement and brought on a rush of contemporary investigations. In the mid-1950s, Mount Ararat finally gave up its first 20th century physical clue to the Ark's existence and whereabouts. It was to be the beginning of a series of modern-day successes in cracking the secrets of the Ark. A French demolition engineer named Fernand Navarra first became interested in the Ark while serving in the military as a young man. Navarra began the first of a series of expeditions to Mount Ararat in 1952.
My Kurdish guides had abandoned me at the lower level of the mountain, and so I tried my best to proceed on my own. I was not able to find the Ark exposed, but I did see a massive dark shape frozen under the glacier ice. I knew then I would have to return to discover what it could be.
Navarra did return in July of 1955, accompanied by his young son, Raphael. What we see here is actual footage filmed by Fernand Navarra and his son during their expedition.
1955 was a warm year with a great glacial meltback. I know if I had a chance to reach the Ark, it would be now.
It was Raphael who first spotted something. Navarra carefully lowered himself deep into a crevasse at the 13,500-foot level.
The wood was easy to see, but was frozen into the ice. Still then, I had no idea how big it was.
What Navarra chopped from the ice was a 5-foot hand-hewn wooden beam.
I had dreamed of this. Raphael and I were excited like it was Christmas time. I tried to carry it down the mountain across my pack. It was very heavy. I could not keep my balance. We felt so bad that I had to cut the wood, but later I would have to cut it again to send out sample for testing.
A proud moment and fulfillment of a long-held wish. But was this actually wood from Noah's Ark? It was determined that the type of wood Navarra found does not grow near Mount Ararat. As a matter of fact, there's not a forest within 300 miles of the mountain. Navarra himself had the hand-hewn wood that he had found tested in 3 different laboratories. Now he was told that its age was about 5,000 years, clearly in line with the biblical account of the flood. The scientific tests proved beyond question that something very old, something very mysterious, was definitely on Mount Ararat. Fernand Navarra's exciting discovery had opened the door to a new generation of Ark hunters. Much of what we commonly know about the story of Noah comes from the book of Genesis in the Bible. Our investigation of the mysteries surrounding Noah's Ark shall begin with a simple question. Why would God destroy the world and nearly every person and every animal in it? The answer, according to the Bible, is that God saw great wickedness within his earthly creation. The Bible says God decided to destroy the things of the world because man was living in corruption.
Whatever other sins that ancient man was guilty of, the archaeological records demonstrate he was an incredibly violent species.
Well, certainly violence has always been a part of man's ways. Most ancient Greek and Hebrew writings indicate there was a great deal of corruption and brutality among the people of the earth. There were many murders, and human life was cheap indeed. But God saw that one man and his family were righteous, the man who was called Noah. The Bible tells us God spoke directly to Noah, saying, "I'm going to put an end to all people, for the earth is filled with violence because of them. Behold, I will destroy them with the earth." A close reading of the Bible tells us quite a bit about Noah. He had a wife. Together they had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Because Noah was a just man who walked with God, all of them, including the wives of Noah's sons, would be spared from the flood. Just 8 people in all. According to the Bible, the Lord instructed Noah to build the ark of gopher wood in order to survive the flood. Obviously, gopher wood had to be very strong. Exactly what kind of wood was it?
Gopher wood is a process rather than a species. In Israel, in the olden days, they had a particular tree. They would cut the bark, collect the sap, and use it as glue and splice wood together. Once it hardened, you could not break the splice. The wood would break on either side. We don't have a ply tree, but we have plywood. What if gopher wood is a process and a laminated process?
Whether or not this process was used, the vessel was going to have to be incredibly strong because of its immense proportions. A length of 300 cubits by 50 cubits of width and 30 cubits of height. The cubit being about 18 inches. Just how big was it?
It had 1,500,000 cubic feet of space inside, which is the equivalent of 170 railroad boxcars. The ark should be thought of in this perspective. Think of a 4-story apartment building on almost a block long, and you've got it.
The Guinness Book of World Records records the Ark as the longest wooden boat ever built. And during World War II, the USS New Mexico and the USS Oregon were built on the same proportional dimensions as Noah's Ark, 6 times longer than it was wide.
We now know the tremendous size and capacity of the Ark. But what might life and conditions aboard this great vessel have been like? Ark model builder Eddie Atkinson explains the Ark's interior design from a scale model he built, complete with 1,200 hand-carved animals.
On the top floor of this model, from the end here all the way to the middle of the Ark, I've reserved for birds. At the middle of the Ark, I've got a catwalk which goes over the elephant and the giraffe cages. And then immediately after that, we have the rodent house and a large area for storage, and then the kitchen area, and then finally on this end, the living quarters, along with a restroom. On the middle floor of this model, I've started on this end with all the large cats, the tigers, lions, and so forth. Immediately next to them, I've got the hippos and the rhinos and then the elephants, almost in the middle of the Ark model. Right next to the elephants over a large hallway, I've got the giraffes and then the horses and zebras and many of the other domestic animals, a large storage area, and then the area down here reserved for some foodstuffs. On either end of that middle floor, I've got built in a stairway to go up.
The construction of the Ark continued over many years. Noah's neighbors came to laugh and scorn as Noah and his family worked toward completion. The construction by hand of a floating vessel of these huge dimensions boggles the mind. How was it possible for Noah to have built the Ark on such a grand scale as recorded in the Bible without the use of modern technology?
If we look at the evidence left to us by ancient civilizations, we find that the further back we go, the more amazing are the accomplishments. The ancient Minoans were highly advanced. Some of the reconstructions of their temples that were destroyed catastrophically reveal that they had tremendous abilities, architectural skills and artistic design. We see their inlaid stone, natural ventilation, and air conditioning. We could go to Egypt and look at some of their artifacts, some of which are electroplated. Such electroplated artifacts have been found literally around the ancient world. The ancients were also able to make batteries and generate electricity. The ancient Mayans were able to calculate the solar year to be 365.2420 days, accurate to within 2/10,000ths of a day. Or we could look at this lady buried over 2,100 years ago in China, and today her body is perfectly preserved so that it can be examined by an X-ray technician. Her body was buried at the base of a mound, and when it was excavated, they found a very complex system of coffins. Within the sarcophagus, they found many interesting things like a compact containing rouge, lipstick, powder, brush, silk gloves, a silk scarf, even lacquerware, and musical instruments. Exactly what the Bible claims the people of the past were able to do.
From this information, we can easily draw the conclusion that, in fact, ancient man had a highly developed technology, easily sufficient to build a vessel the size of Noah's Ark. But do we know the geographic location where the Ark was built?
The Ark was built at a pre-flood city, near a pre-flood city named Shuruppak. It is so identified in the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is a cuneiform story of the flood found in Assyria. Shuruppak is also, with the same name, became a post-flood city. It is in southern Iraq. We know where the Ark also landed. It was in eastern Turkey. We know how far the Ark moved, 520 or more miles.
With the completion of the great boat, God commanded Noah to bring unto the Ark 2 of all living creatures, male and female. Wouldn't the gathering of the animals have been a virtually impossible task, a feat beyond all probability?
The Bible says the animals shall come to the ark. In this case, we wonder how the animals knew to come to this location. We think that instinctively they sensed from what was going on around about them that this impending disaster was about to happen. And as a result, they were led or even driven to seek a place of safety. Hence, the animals came to the ark. Many times we see that there are such large-scale disasters as hurricanes or earthquakes or even large local storms will cause animals to respond in such a way. They either flee the local scene and they run to a place of safety. We think that this is perhaps the motivating force for bringing these animals to the ark itself.
Even with the enormous size of Noah's floating vessel, many serious questions arise that clearly challenge the credibility of the entire Ark story.
The question I would ask is quite simple. How could 2 of every living animal be brought aboard any vessel? The sheer numbers and weight would overwhelm a fleet of arks. I don't believe we can take the story of the ark literally.
Actually, the biblical record does not say that every species of animal in the world was in the ark. Many kinds were in the ocean, whales and marine creatures of various types, and of course, the major insect varieties in the world were not included either. From studies that I and others have done, we estimate there could have been from 2,500 to 20,000 different kinds of animals taken aboard Noah's Ark.
Each family of creatures on the earth today have a single pair of ancestors. For example, even though there are over 300 varieties of dogs in the world today due to selective breeding, they have a single common ancestor. Considering the number of kinds of animals required to be put aboard the Ark, there would have been ample room to load the ancestors of all the species we know today, with room left over for Noah's family, food, and supplies.
The long task of gathering the animals into the Ark was nearing completion. "Go into the Ark, you and your whole family," God told Noah, "because I have found you righteous in this generation." Those who came to witness the spectacle considered it nothing but folly. God's vow echoed for Noah. In 7 days, he would send down rains from the heavens and wipe from the face of the earth every living creature he had made. With many regrets and no real alternatives, Noah reluctantly closed the door to the great ark, and the Bible tells us that God shut them in. The people continued to mock Noah, unaware of the devastation and death that lie ahead.
This may be the start of it.
The downpour was far beyond anything they could have imagined. Their scorn was forgotten as their concerns turned to fear. Even among the 8 on board, uncertainty was growing.
Father, we can't allow them to perish. Certainly we have enough provisions to bring those poor souls on board.
You know how I wish we could do what you're saying. But there's some bigger purpose, some bigger plan we're all part of. It's not in our hands to change that.
Because of the sort of man he was, Noah's heart went out to them. But he knew that he had no choice but to follow God's commands. What about the ark itself? What was it designed to do during the flood? Was it capable of carrying out its assigned life-saving tasks? Could a seagoing vessel built to the ark's specifications endure a 40-day-long cloudburst and survive in a violent storm-tossed sea for months on end? Would the ark be sound and stable in the water? Some scholars completely reject the idea that a wooden boat the size of Noah's Ark would be at all seaworthy.
When it comes to the design and construction of the biblical ark, there are several important reasons it could not have existed. First, the technology needed simply did not exist. Second, any modern vessel today would have certainly foundered in far less weather conditions than the biblical deluge. It is highly unlikely Noah's wooden ark would have survived more than a few hours under such conditions.
To examine this issue ourselves, we took a model of the ark to a marine laboratory to see how it would handle waves and other hydraulic stresses when subjected to the irregular waves generally found on the ocean. The ark was deemed not only seaworthy, but exceptionally stable. Then the test tank duplicated waves equivalent to 200-foot tidal waves. Again, the Ark was not only seaworthy, but extraordinarily stable.
You can show that the balance between the buoyant force and the gravitational force and the wave force and so on would be such that the Ark would right itself if it were tilted anywhere up to 90 degrees, anywhere from 0 to 90 degrees, in other words. The righting effect would be such that it would just come right back up again. It'd be practically impossible to capsize.
So it appears the Ark was indeed a highly reliable seagoing vessel. It's all the more remarkable for one simple fact. No larger ship was built on Earth for over 4,000 years. We have examined what the Bible tells us about the building of Noah's Ark. We have established that the technology did exist 5,000 years ago to build a boat that could transport 2 of each species of land animal, and that such a vessel could have well survived the gigantic waves of a worldwide flood. We have heard the voices of eyewitnesses who claim to have seen the Ark from the air and from the ground. Wood brought down from over 13,000 feet high on the treeless Mount Ararat has been determined by scientists to be 5,000 years old. All this mass of evidence supports the biblical account and seems to confirm that Noah actually did build an ark on which he, his family, and a pair of each of the earth's animals survived a catastrophic flood. But this story is much more than a question of whether Noah's Ark existed. It is the story of a faithful man who took God at his word, and as a result, accomplished a gargantuan task in the face of incredible adversity. Noah endured years of hard work and ridicule to be true to what God asked him to do. Today, we sometimes face ridicule and hardship when we attempt to faithfully follow God. Do we consistently stand up for what is right, as Noah did? Or do we too easily conform to the self-centered culture around us? Something to think about.